Okay, I think we are officially live. Let me know if the audio is okay. Hello, buenas. Welcome to today's live stream. It is March 8th. Happy Women's Day. I'm here with Dad, of course. We're going to talk a little bit about the Shield of America and the situation with the U.S. Intervention. So you can say hi.
Hello guys, good afternoon.
I had interrupted him a little bit. We're gonna talk a little bit about what's happening over here. Also, we're gonna give our thoughts, our opinion, of course, separate from any political party or intervention. This is what we think about what's happening over here, and of course, what we've been able to notice while we are over here. Right now, I'm also gonna pull up the live stream over here just to make sure everything is okay. I always like to pull it up on my phone to make sure I can see it, and also so that I can comment a little bit faster, because sometimes commenting through the chat is a little bit more complex. But glad to have anyone who is joining here today. Glad to have you here. If you have any thoughts, any questions, anything you'd like to add to the conversation, please leave message in the chat. My dad will mainly be speaking in Spanish, so I will be helping with the translations, interpretations in English. Sometimes interpretation is a quicker way of getting the translation through because it's the same thing, just shorter and of course more concise. Talking about the situation that's happening over here with the U.S. intervention. Honestly, if you notice the thumbnail of this live stream, the Shield of America, the picture, it's funny when I saw it, my first thought was like, is this AI generated? But then I saw it was posted from the account, the official account of Daniel Noboa, the president of Ecuador. And I was like, oh, wow, this is a real thing. And I was actually going to talk about this situation for anyone who's been keeping up to date with the channel. I made a post on my channel on Friday, and I was going to talk about this, not on Friday, I made it I think on Thursday or Wednesday. And I was like, I'll talk about this maybe on Friday or on Sunday. And on Friday, I was like, maybe it's still too fresh, still too new. Maybe there's still time to be able to talk about this. So I decided I'll talk about this on Sunday. And it was better to wait because that's, by waiting, I got the image. I saw the Shield of America, and I was pretty surprised to see that there's this coalition being made for what's happening over here in the country, which of course is the situation, as we all know, the narco-terrorism and all the situations related to the drug cartels. Of course, it's not just that. There's a lot of things that you have to look at, and it's not just, of course, Ecuador. It's all of South America. Although, if we notice with the coalition, and I've already started to see the memes pop out, it's not all of South America. It's actually just certain parts of South America, certain parts of Latin America that are included in this coalition. I think the two that were excluded, porque vean dos que habían excluidos, were Colombia
Cuatro.
and Mexico.
No, Perú también.
Peru
Y
also.
Nicaragua.
And Nicaragua. Okay, so there's four. But the main emphasis I've seen is on Mexico and Colombia, because apparently they say that the government of those two countries is controlled by the cartels. Se dicen que por eso es que no lo tomaron en cuenta.
Porque son unos narcoestados.
Because they're narco states, they're narco countries. So since they have so much support from the cartels, they're being left out of this coalition. And that's why people are, of course, siding with the idea that this is a good thing. But we're going to talk about what we think. Is it good that the United States, that we're having this kind of cooperation with the United States? What does this mean for people looking to travel to Ecuador, to live in Ecuador? What are our thoughts on this situation? A comment from Deborah Lombardi. Hello, Deborah. Dice, buenas tardes, Ace y Padre.
Hello, Deborah, buenas tardes.
Buenas tardes, Deborah. Thank you for joining us here today. Remember, if you have any thoughts or questions, please leave them in the comment section down below. I'll try to reply. My dad will try to reply. But to start with, let's look at the first thing that I wanted to show. I have these two tabs over here. First, we're going to start with the military operations. So, well, the video. So this is the video that I pulled up. I'll activate the closed captions because I can only hear it through the headphones. Dad won't be able to hear it over there. But yeah, you can look at the closed captions.
Between Ecuador and the United States.
I think the headphones actually disconnected. Oh, but that's better. That's fine. Doesn't matter. That way we can all hear it.
It's against so-called narco-terrorist groups has to be explained by the government. According to experts consulted by Televistazo, the armed forces confirmed that the first operation was carried out this Tuesday on the northern border. Paul Romero with the report.
So this was the operation that we were talking about earlier that was carried out on the frontier. And it was specifically, ¿dónde era específicamente que cayó eso?
En la Amazonía. En la parte de la Amazonía que tenemos la frontera con Colombia.
Organizations classified as narco-terrorists generates expectation and debate. The Joint Command of the Armed Forces confirmed that the first operation was carried out on Tuesday on the northern border in an area of influence of the dissident group of the border paramilitarism or BAO. Yes, according to the government, a new phase of the internal armed conflict began this week. For Arturo Torres, an expert on security issues, the military offensive occurs in a regional context of direct participation by the United States in Mexico, Venezuela, and Ecuador.
There is a clear signal from the United States to support and intervene directly in this type of anti-drug operations. Beyond that, I think the important thing is to understand that those of us who are going to define the policy so that it is an effective policy are really...
Okay, well, everything else he's saying there is being kind of blurred out by the auto dubbing because yes, it is the auto dubbed by the AI that YouTube has implemented. But basically what's happening, of course, this is the first, I guess you could say, visual operation that we've been able to see because apparently there have been intelligence related operations already going on in Ecuador in collaboration with the United States. Of course, when it comes to intelligence, it's not something we're going to hear about immediately until something like this happens. So before, when it first started, a lot of people were asking, and we'll look at Reddit in a bit to check that out, but a lot of people were asking if anything has actually physically happened in Ecuador with the intervention of the United States. And most people would say no. Like, o sea, nosotros ahorita aquí digamos que no vemos de intervención de los Estados Unidos porque no es que las tropas están aquí en la calle.
No, porque esos son solamente donde están los focos de infección, donde están las zonas más complicadas.
So basically the intervention for the United States is more directed, or it's more heavily positioned in places where there's, of course, more conflict, where there's more problems. Over here in a city like where we live in is Puerto Viejo, there isn't that kind of necessity for the U.S. Armed Forces to be here. And even if they were here, I feel like it would be kind of a trickle-down effect where, since it's not such a problem here, we probably would only have a minimal amount of troops, and if anything, we would have maybe just intelligence agents operating here. If something does happen here, it would be probably because there's something big going on in the city. But it's not mainly focused over here in Ecuador. We need volume. Okay, it needs to be louder. Ace, I don't know if you're talking about the video. If it's the video, then I think I have it set up to be not that loud, just so that it doesn't interfere. But I'm gonna move it up a little bit more. If it's the audio from our voices, please let us know if it's not good. By the way, hello to, we have Scala, hello, what's up, buenas. We also have Michelle, hola Michelle, buenas. Is we need volume. Let me know if the volume is okay, because at least the volume from us, where if you hear it in the middle of the video, I don't think it's gonna sound good. If you hear it in the middle of us, like while we're speaking with the video on, it's probably gonna sound kind of bad. Right now, if you hear us good, please let us know. Either way, Dad has his microphone on too, so you should be able to hear us well. But yeah, okay, it was the video, yeah. So I had a feeling it was the video because I tried to keep that low just to avoid any problems with the conflict between us speaking in the middle of the video. But yeah, basically the situation with the armed forces, this was the first, I guess you could say, main not conflict, but the first main show of force that was seen. And the reason, which I'm going to pull up right now, from what it says here, the Shield of Americas. No, I don't think this is the right one. Hold up. Let me pull up the right one. Give me 1 second. I'm going to try to pull up the other one really quick. So let's see here. Shield of America. No, this one, I think. No, this is the other. This one. So copy this. And paste and go. Okay, so there we go. Let me pull that up now. So yeah, this was the first attack, which was in the frontier of Colombia. Like my dad said, it was in the Amazon region. And apparently it was because there's this ex-group, supposedly extinct group of armed forces from the FARC. And they say that this was the resting ground for this person called Monotole, alias Monotole. And it was also a space where they were training 50 narco traffickers, like a training space for that. There's also another video in regards to that. Let me see if I can pull it up, which more specifically shows the attack. Give me 1 second, please. Let me see if there's any ads. Okay, no, it opens up directly so that you can check it out and so that Dad can see it as well. He's probably already seen it, but...
Unidos arremeten contra las disidencias de las FARC. Este viernes, el gobierno de Daniel Noboa informó que con el apoyo de las autoridades militares de Washington realizó un operativo en la zona fronteriza con Colombia.
So there's a key point that they say. It's like it was in collaboration with the assistance of the armed forces from Washington. So I don't know there if the armed forces from Washington were here. ¿Sabes algo acerca de eso? Si las Fuerzas Armadas de Washington estuvieron aquí
Claro,
para ayudar con eso.
ellos con la logística que ellos tienen, interceptan comunicaciones.
Pero de parte de inteligencia, pero estando aquí con equipos de inteligencia,
claro,
o ellos estaban aquí como parte del ataque.
No, ellos no van a intervenir directamente en los ataques, sino solamente te dan posiciones donde tienen que atacar.
Okay, so that was one concern that I had. One thing that while I was looking up the information, I found a lot of mentions of the United States intervening, basically being part of this conflict. Even if you read the situation over here, why was the Shield of America, which was part of the topic that we're going to talk about today, why has it been done? Like, what is the purpose? It's to offer U.S. missile strikes to target drug cartels. And even here he says, we're working with you to do whatever we have to do. We'll use missiles. You want us to use a missile. They're extremely accurate. And pew, right into the living room. That's the end of the cartel person, but we'll do whatever you need. So I thought that there was direct intervention when we saw this attack, which I'll play the video.
Contra el llamado
so
Comandos de la Frontera, una de las múltiples organizaciones que se desprendió de la extinta guerrilla que firmó un acuerdo de paz con el Estado colombiano en 2016.
So because there were missile strikes, I assume that maybe the United States had directly attacked this station for this cartel. But from what Dad's telling me, they just offer the intelligence, which is something that was part of the other video that you could see over here, that there's a debate that sparks debate among people, thinking that maybe the United States is going to be here, especially considering the fact that there was, I think it's also mentioned here, or was it in the other one? It's mentioned in a video that I watched earlier, but we voted against the military bases here in Ecuador. O sea, votamos en contra de eso. Well, we didn't, but it was voted in the majority by the people of Ecuador that there would be no U.S. military bases here in Ecuador. And because of that, people are concerned that why are they allowing military forces here in Ecuador? No sé si tengas una opinión acerca de eso, el hecho de que se votó en contra de las bases militares estadounidenses, sin embargo, hay intervención americana.
Es que una cosa es venir y establecerte, ¿me entiendes? Y decirte, vamos a dar este edificio para que tú te establezcas aquí, a que venga de una cosa temporaria y el gobierno está en todo su derecho de llegar a un acuerdo. Lo que se pudo haber hecho bajo decisión del pueblo, el gobierno lo está haciendo bajo decisión personal, pero no de una forma definida, sino de una forma de escala, ¿ok? Que van a ser por etapas.
Okay, so basically, what happened was that it's not like there was a like I said, we didn't agree to them showing up, so the government is allowing them to help while not establishing a base here long term. So it's like short term help based on how the situation changes. Porque supongo que como va cambiando la situación, van viendo si vienen o salen las tropas.
¿Qué más se necesita? Supongamos ya Estados Unidos tiene en el Caribe, ya tiene buques, tiene incluso un submarino.
They already have forces in the
en
Caribbean.
el Caribe para controlar la salida de narcolanchas que ya van destruyendo como 8, creo ya.
To control the leaving
de
of
drogas,
these drugs, of these cartels.
Para controlar la venta del petróleo venezolano que supuestamente iba para Cuba, pero de Cuba lo revendían y salía para China, salía para Rusia, para otros países, ¿no? Entonces, Estados
They're
Unidos
also trying to control the sale of this oil that was being sold to Cuba, but supposedly for Cuba's use, but apparently they were selling it to Cuba and Cuba was selling it to other countries.
Ejemplo, mandaban 5 millones de barriles de petróleo.
They would send like 5 million barrels of petroleum.
Un millón se quedaba para energía en Cuba y 4 millones iban para China.
Like 1 million would stay in Cuba and 4 million would go to
China.
China.
Y ese dinero que generaba eso, que no eran ventas legales, ya porque están usando un país intermediario, entonces a Cuba le regalaban el petróleo, pero Cuba le servía como intermediario y blanqueaba el dinero. ¿De quién? De los governments.
So basically,
caso, de Maduro y su comitiva que tenían ahí en el gobierno venezolano.
So basically, the oil that was being sold, basically given away to Cuba, was being used to basically fill their pockets, you could say. Since imagine the example, if they're giving Cuba 5 million barrels or tons of oil, and Cuba's only keeping 1 million for their power and infrastructure, and they're selling 4 million, that's a lot of profit. Even if it were sold at normal price, you'd still be profiting off of, well, if it were sold to Cuba at normal price, if they're selling it to another country at an inflated price, they'd still be earning a lot of money. And it's another way for them to gain resources, I guess you could say.
Esa es una de las razones por las cuales Estados Unidos intervino en Venezuela.
That's one of the reasons that the United States intervened in Venezuela.
Aparte de lo que ya se venía gestando con los abusos que tenía el gobierno venezolano. Entonces todo parte de ahí, de una contención al narcotráfico, que prácticamente sale por los puertos hacia el resto del mundo, tanto de Venezuela, tanto de Colombia, tanto de Ecuador, como de Perú. Lo que pasa que Ecuador...
So basically it starts there. Like, that's the reason why all of this began. It's basically from that point, like the corruption side, I guess you could say, of them trying to use the resources in a way that wasn't the intended purpose, or trying to fill the pockets of the narco state, of the narcos in general.
Entonces, ¿a quién no le interesa, a qué gobierno no le interesa que le llegue dinero para vivir tranquilo y hacer una buena gestión?
All governments would benefit from having,
claro,
money.
Pero no pensaron en las consecuencias futuras.
But they don't think about the future consequences.
Claro. Entonces, hoy en día, todos queremos vivir una vida normal.
So nowadays we all want to live a normal life.
No se puede vivir una vida normal.
But you can't live a normal life.
Porque uno antes salía, caminaba y no había ningún problema.
Because before you could go out and you would walk around and nothing would happen.
Pero hoy en día uno sale y no se sabe si la persona con la que uno se va a reunir, con la que se va a juntar, ande en malos pasos.
But now you don't know if the person who you're going to hang out with or the place that you're going to go to has a person who's been involved in the drugs, the cartels.
Casualmente, esta reunión que hubo en Miami es para juntar criterios.
So this reunion, the Shield of Americas, which I'll pull up this again, the Shield of America was created in order to fight against this.
Porque estamos hablando que se están perdiendo generaciones de jóvenes, tanto en América como en Norteamérica.
We're losing generations of young people, of kids,
Claro. ¿Por
in
qué?
not just here in Latin America, but also in the States.
En los States, exacto. Entonces, esas generaciones que se han criado con estas políticas de narcoestados, entonces, y eso ya para ellos es normal tener una vida de ver tanta corrupción. Dice, ¿por qué si el presidente lo hace? ¿Por qué si el asambleísta lo hace? ¿El congresista lo hace? Yo también lo puedo hacer.
Basically, they grow up seeing this and they normalize it. They see that the president or people who are in power are, you know, they're accepting bribes. They're basically part of the narco state. So if they can do it, why can't I do it too? That's the thought process that goes through the mind of the kids who are seeing this unfold.
El día que los padres volvamos a tener el control del respeto y sobre todo de saber a dónde están nuestros hijos, ese día los estados van a cambiar. Pero mientras no exista una ayuda familiar, los estados no van a poder funcionar tampoco, porque hay mucha necesidad afuera ante tanta crueldad que se vive hoy en día en todos estos países, en Colombia, en Ecuador, en Perú, en Argentina, en Venezuela, en México.
En Latinoamérica.
Todo lo que es los países que son más nombrados, ¿no? Que están arraigados con estas cuestiones del narcotráfico. ¿Por qué? Porque son países que tienen puertos grandes y esos puertos grandes es donde se puede sacar mayor cantidad de droga.
Okay, so first of all, when parents have more control over the situation with their kids, of course the things are going to change. They're going to be able to not let this happen to the children who don't know any better. Like literally, I mean, as a teacher and then of course as a person, you and anyone who's watching this knows, kids really don't know any better. They see what's happening and they take it as an example of what they should or shouldn't do. So social media has such a grip on the lives of kids nowadays. But lo que estabas diciendo acerca de todos los países latinoamericanos prácticamente, o los más nombrados, ¿qué fue? Es que tienes que darme tiempo para traducir.
Okay. De todos los países que mencioné, en este caso, de los que están más involucrados en esta cuestión, todos están nombrados, o sea...
So basically, out of all these Latin American countries...
los que más en este momento que tenemos problemas de salida de drogas, somos como una isla que la usan como para transportar la droga afuera y llevarla a Europa, llevarla a Asia.
The ones that are most mentioned are the ones that have the capacity or the ability to be able to export.
Somos todos los países que estamos acá en el cono sur, Ecuador,
such as Ecuador, Colombia,
Venezuela. En Centroamérica usan El Salvador,
Central America,
usan Nicaragua,
El Salvador,
que hay un gobierno condescendiente con este tipo de políticas. ¿Ya? Y México, que es el más involucrado de todos.
And of course Mexico, which is the most involved in this whole situation. So looking a little bit at the comments, worried about Ecuador, and so glad Ace is showing this to us. We gotta be real. Like, we can talk about the good things, like the yummy food and the fun times, but we also have to see what's unfolding over here in the country and what exactly is happening. We also have, well, it was a retracted comment. Linda's appreciate hearing your feelings on this, but the Trump administration is no better. We'll talk about my thoughts on the situation with the administration in a bit. Linda's totally agree. Just here briefly, good luck with your live. Thank you, Magnus, and hello, Buenas, Magnus. Good to see you here. Thanks for taking the time to at least say hi. Hope you're doing well. I hope everyone's doing well, because I know this situation has been super, super weird, to say the least. Especially, I recently heard about how the taxes have been deemed, the taxes that the states have been putting on the other countries have been deemed illegal. So now a lot of countries are basically, hey, give us back our tax money. And a point that I was waiting for someone to mention, and I just recently heard someone mention it yesterday, was the situation with the refunds. Of course, not the refunds to the companies, but the refunds to the people. Because for anyone who didn't know, like, of course, the companies who are being taxed because of the exporting or the importing, the situation with the taxes, The effect was felt by the companies, of course. Of course, they got taxed, and the things that they had to import or they had to export, the taxes that they had to pay, they paid it. But in order to pay it, they would sell their products. They raised the prices of everything. So the fact that they raised the prices of everything means that the price was basically deferred to the consumer. So the consumer is the one who had to pay for the taxes. In other words, that's what happened. So now that they're getting a refund, does the consumer get a refund? Obviously not. The companies are just going to be like, hey, oh, well, whenever this money comes in too, because even though we know that they're going to get refunded at some point in their lives, like it's not going to be like today, tomorrow, or even a year from now. Who knows? It could be a year from now, but like the more likely case scenario is that it'll be way down the road. But the point being that because of these taxes that were paid by consumers, shouldn't consumers be the one receiving some kind of refund, some kind of, help because of this? It's probably not going to happen, but people should be mad about that. In my opinion, take a look at how the company follows up with the refunds that come out from this situation. If the company is like, okay, we got refunds, we know we put the burden on you to pay for this, so let's make shipping free, let's make it easier for you to get the product, we're offering a discount, I don't know, something that kind of makes you feel like, okay, the company didn't just get it, like charge us more and end up earning more in two sides, like from us and also from the refund that we're getting. I don't know. Try to look at it in that way, like try to think about how the company is responding to the situation or will respond when it does get the money back, as soon as you start seeing news on that. But going back to the topic, so the situation with the Shield of America, that's the reason it was founded. What are your thoughts? What is your opinion? ¿Cuál es tu opinión about the Shield of America? Do you think that this is a good thing or is it a bad thing?
Todo esfuerzo que se haga para vivir mejor es bueno.
Okay, so everything that is done to live better is a good thing.
Claro, son opiniones de gente que quieren vivir en países más estables, tranquilos, donde no haya tanto índice de mortalidad por cuestión de delincuencia organizada, pues, ¿no? Entonces, así un estado progresa más. Ejemplo, El Salvador, se eliminó casi el 90% de la delincuencia y hoy en día todo el mundo vive tranquilo y feliz allá.
So he agrees that it's a good thing, basically because for anyone who's looking at the country who wants to live here, or even us who are already living here, we look at the situation and what my dad mentioned earlier, you go out and you don't know who's around you or what they've been up to. So you're unsure what's going to happen. But with this intervention, there's a better chance for there to be maybe less. It's not going to completely disappear overnight. It might not even completely disappear. Porque siendo realista es difícil eliminar por completo un cartel. It's like you eliminate one and another one spawns up out of nowhere. It's tough. But with the intervention of the Shield of America, there's the hope that there's going to be a better lifestyle, better living over here, because there's going to be at least some kind of defense or some kind of action being taken against these cartels. And kind of a separate opinion, something not separate but related, es algo que pensé, something that I thought about, is that one of the things that a lot of people are talking about the government, and they're also really mad still because the government hasn't done anything. O sea, todo el mundo dice, el gobierno no ha hecho nada. Bueno, no todo el mundo, pero muchas personas. There's a lot of people. And I think a lot of it is, of course, political parties. Hay ciertos...
polarizados.
Claro, there's political parties who it's convenient for them to say nothing's being done. But a lot of the things have been done behind the scenes. And because a lot of the things have been done behind the scenes, even people who agree with the government might be thinking like, what's happening? But with visible action, which is what just happened, basically with the bombing of this cartel station, this resting ground for narco-terrorists, it shows people that something is being done or something is trying to be done, but there's a lot of groundwork that needed to be laid in order for this to be done. Is that 100% what's happening? Is there a possibility that this is just coincidental? Maybe. Like, I even thought while I was investigating the information and seeing all of this unfold, I thought maybe this was the purpose of the president getting so close to the president of the United States. A lot of people think it's a lot of sucking up, or a lot of, hey, he's just trying to look good, or trying to make sure, the president takes him into consideration, or hey, because he's a Miami boy, because he was born in Miami, maybe he's just, trying to look good in front of the president. But maybe this was part of the plan that President Noboa had this whole time. Who knows? For when there was actual intervention from the United States, for him to be a part of that intervention. Because there are countries, like we mentioned earlier, there's countries who aren't being included in this intervention. So if we wouldn't have been so close to the United States, maybe we wouldn't have been part of that intervention. Will that intervention result in good things? We'll only know as time progresses, because all of this is a developing situation. While today things are okay here in this city, por ahora las cosas están normales, things are pretty normal. Maybe a month from now there will be actual intervention from armed forces, because there could be some kind of cartel relation here in the city of Puerto Viejo, or more likely in a city like Manta. So in my opinion, it's more likely that a city like Manta is going to get United States intervention. Va a haber intervención de Estados Unidos más temprana, because it's a port city, una ciudad de puerto.
Que la próxima semana comienza un toque de queda donde van a ser intervenidas cuatro provincias del Ecuador y 4 ciudades de Manabí, que entre estas están Manta, Pedernales, Puerto Viejo y Montecristi.
Manta, Pedernales, Puerto Viejo, and Montecristi are going to have intervention starting from next week, because of the curfews that we mentioned, and of course the other cities that the other parts of the country that already have the curfews. ¿Cuáles son las provincias que tienen el toque de queda? Guayas, bueno, Guayas, of course.
Pichincha.
Pichincha.
Los Ríos.
Los Ríos.
Santo Domingo.
Santo Domingo. Sí, earlier.
Perdón, la Amazonía.
The Amazon region.
Sí, la Amazonía. Sí.
Earlier I was talking to Luis. They had heard that there was going to be intervention in Cuenca, but apparently that was just a rumor. So fue un rumor de que supuestamente Cuenca también hubo ver, pero no, not in Cuenca.
No está tomado en cuenta para el toque de queda, que comienza el 15.
By the way, that's Luis of Ecuador. I was talking to him earlier about the situation, a little bit of his thoughts, and we'll talk about that later on. But that is the situation. Either way, that is some of our thoughts. Let me look at some of the comments. Deborah, my opinion, Trump will not give anything, and when he says tremendous potential, just might mean he will want natural resources from all the region. Honestly, in my my opinion of what the situation with the U.S. government, what's been happening, there's no way that there's going to be help from the states without some kind of price that we have to pay. It's never give. It's always give and take. They give us help, so I assume that there's going to be some kind of help given from us to them. Well, to the states. I hear you, but I don't think it's accurate to say the Trump administration was no better. It's fair to debate outcomes, but dismissing any effort to help Ecuador without looking at the actual policies and impact turns the discussion into opinions instead of facts. No better is easy to say, but it's not much of an argument without facts to back it up. That's a guess, not an argument. Motives should be judged by actions and policy, not assumptions. Bonnet Lifestyle, thank you for your intervention. That's why it's always good to have some of the information that we have here. I mean, I have more of what the mainstream take has been on this whole situation as well, which I do want to talk about a little bit in a bit. But I do agree that it's good to have some kind of help externally, because if we look at the way things have been going on internally, and like I said earlier, there's a lot of people who feel like there hasn't been anything done during this whole process. But how can you say that nothing has been done when you're seeing things like this happen? Of course, there are other situations that need attention, and I will put my hat in the ring and say and talk about the situation about how there's money for this, but there's no money for other things that are also equally important. like we just talked about, that there's the situation with children, of course. They grow up seeing this and seeing how things happen. But if children are the future, then why can't we pour more money into education and not as much money as is being poured into war? Why not put that into things like education, things like infrastructure? We always talk about, like, I always give the benefit of the doubt to the country in the terms of like, okay, I understand if there's no money for the streets. I understand if there's no money for hospitals, kind of, because there's money being funneled to other things, like, of course. But how is it that there's money for war, but there's no money for these things that are also equally important? The future of children is important. If children don't have an education, then of course they're going to turn to finding a way to make money. And if they see that, oh, these guys from the cartels, they got their motorcycles, they got their women, or in the case of women, maybe they have their men. Or if they're into that kind of thing, then they have their women or they have their men. I don't know.
Ropa cara, zapatos caros.
There's money for everything. Like they see that's like such an easy way to make money. So why wouldn't they want to follow that example? But if we're investing into education, then they'll see that there's another path towards the future. And of course, if education itself has an effect, because also even people with education, sometimes we complain that we have an education, but nothing is happening even with that education. So, you know, just some thoughts. Let's see here. Guayaquil also, yes, of course. Like my dad said, Guayas. Bonnet, we shall see in the future. We don't know. Right now, there's really nothing that we can say about the subject. Moon, buenas. Very touchy subject, but I think this would be a good chance for everyone to see that working together would be better than working apart. As always, whenever it comes to like we always, like I think about this as a sport, like not because it's a sport, but because sports always require the intervention of everyone. You can't say that a team is going to win because they have one good player. If one good player tries to win for the team, it could result in injury, or it could result in everyone just, once you know that you have that good player, you cover that good player, and then how do you win if you put all your emphasis on that? By working as a team, you can each use each other's strengths in order to win the game. In this case, to make things better. I'm not saying win the war because it's irrelevant to me. I'm not thinking about war. I'm not interested in war, but I am interested in the situation of the country getting better. Because as a person who lives here, as someone who lives and works here, what more could I want than to go out and be sure that everything is safe? To feel that when someone goes out, like my brother who sometimes goes out late at night, to know that he's gonna come back home and be okay. Like I want that to be a situation that is okay, that can happen. But that's not gonna happen if we don't have some kind of intervention, and the country's intervention by itself has not been sufficient. So now having intervention from outside parts of the country, from people from outside, from the United States, and maybe this whole coalition, maybe there's a chance for things to improve. Maybe. We don't know yet, because we don't know what the results are going to be until some time passes. What do you think?
De todo lo que tú has explicado, qué difícil, porque la parte social es la más difícil que se tiene que cambiar.
The social part is the most difficult part to change.
Una cosa es vivir en la ciudad y otra cosa es vivir en las periferias.
One thing is to live in the internal part, in the cities. Another thing is to live in the outskirts.
En la provincia de Guayas, Monte Sinaí.
Like Guayas.
Allá en Durán. Entonces, es difícil porque ya hay un pueblo que tiene muchas carencias.
There are people who are missing a lot of things.
Y cuando las carencias no son resueltas por las autoridades, las resuelven los carteles.
When things aren't resolved by the authorities, then the ones who resolve the situation are the cartels. So because they have this deficit, they have this problem, they keep ending up in the same thing.
Los jóvenes hoy en día conocen un mundo virtual, no un mundo real.
Kids nowadays, what they know is a virtual world, not the real world.
Entonces yo quiero lo que está en ese mundo virtual. no importan las consecuencias, las jóvenes se prostituyen, los jóvenes se hacen sicarios, se hacen dealers, transportan droga.
People want what's in this virtual world, so they become dealers. They prostitute themselves.
Hoy en di-
Unfortunately, they
hoy-
sell themselves.
Hoy en día de cada 5 personas que cogen en un grupo, ya sea de extorsión, robando, lo que sea, entonces siempre van a haber 1 o 2 mujeres, lo que antes eso no sucedía, por respeto mismo a la mujer nunca se metía casi en problemas, pero hoy en día es tan común que ya se hizo cotidiano ver el otro día pasaban un video donde una señora con la hija mayor le enseñaban a robar a la hija menor para que distrayendo a que atiende en la tienda de celulares, ellos le tapan eso, la niña se mete y se roba los celulares, una niña de 12 años. Entonces,
That's an interesting point. Before, like he was saying, there was less intervention. Like it's gotten to the point where before, when there was no or very low intervention of women in these cases of narco or these cases of criminality, now there's more intervention of women. And he was also telling me about the example of a mother and her daughter teaching their youngest daughter, the youngest daughter of the mother, to help be a distraction to be able to steal. Well, they became the distraction while the girl was like stealing phones. And it's crazy that it's come to that point.
el niño con 12 años con una pistola en la mochila intimidando a la gente para robarle.
A 12-year-old with a gun in his bag, like threatening people to be able to steal from them.
Otro joven de 15 años, sicario, mató a 2 personas.
A 15-year-old who
Entonces,
was an
son
assassin,
como-
a killer, killing 2 people.
A eso se refiere la parte social, o sea, la estructura de los hogares. Hoy en día los hogares, por lo general, el padre y la
That's the
madre
social part.
nunca están dentro del hogar y nunca se preocupan de lo que hacen los hijos.
The mother and the father nowadays aren't part of the what is the home, the place where they should be. Especially as a parent, you have to have the mother and the father there, setting the example and talking to the children.
Para corregir, los padres estamos para
To correct them.
corregir.
To correct children.
Y si no hay esa corrección cuando tienes 12, 13, entonces ya a los 15, 16 ya son delincuentes.
If there isn't that kind of attention from parents when the kids are 12, 13, then when they're 15 and over, like there's no one who's going to be able to control them because they've already grown up with this.
Porque afuera en los barrios periféricos están las oportunidades para casualmente se hagan delincuentes.
Because in the outskirts, there's the opportunity to be able to do these kinds of things, to be these kind of people, I guess you could say. Unfortunately.
Esa es para mí la parte más importante de esta reunión que hubo allá. Es para
This is the most important part, in his opinion, about this meeting.
tratar de generar delineamientos
Try
para
to set guidelines
que los países hagan una comunión de ideas
so
para
that these
decir,
countries can make a community of
vamos a
ideas.
trabajar de esta forma, no
work
solamente
in this
tú
way.
por tu cuenta, sino todos unificados, por eso se llama la coalición de las Américas.
Not just you on your own, but everyone working together, which is what I was saying earlier. Like, this is a team. If all of Latin America works together in order to stop this problem, then it might actually have an end, instead of it being something that never ends.
Entonces, qué coincidencia que países como México,
What a coincidence that countries like
Colombia,
Mexico, Colombia,
Perú,
Peru,
y Nicaragua, que tienen
And Nicaragua.
gobiernos que
that have governments that
no están alineados con este tipo de propuestas,
aren't in line with this kind of proposal.
no les conviene porque las economías
It's not convenient for them
son dependientes de estos ingresos del narcotráfico.
because their economies are dependent on the narco trafficking.
Que a Colombia le saquen todo lo que exporta en droga y produce la marihuana, la cocaína, que le saquen todo ese dinero de Colombia, a ver cómo queda Colombia.
If you were to take all the money from Colombia that they make from all this narco situation, to see how much money that they would actually have left.
20 millones de personas migrarían a Estados Unidos y Europa nuevamente.
20,000 people would move
Millions. Millions.
20 million people would move from Colombia
Migrarían.
to the United States and
En Europa.
and to Europe because it's just not the same. The economy would plummet. La economía se quebraría.
Que hablaría lógico. Lo que está pasando aquí en el Ecuador, la escasez de circulantes. Se atacó a en las cárceles era donde manejaban la distribución de los dineros de las extorsiones y se generó una escasez de circulante.
Eso pasó en las cárceles de Colombia.
Aquí en Ecuador.
Ah, en Ecuador.
Claro. En Ecuador está pasando eso ahorita, como están controlando las cárceles.
Because the jails are being controlled here in Ecuador,
Entonces se acabó casi el 80% de las extorsiones.
now there's like an end of like an 80% of extortions.
Entonces ese dinero que ya no lo obtienen de buena manera,
So that money that they don't obtain it in a good way,
entonces ya no lo pueden poner a circular.
now they can't circulate
Entonces,
it.
¿qué hacen con ese dinero?
So what do they do with that
Invierten
money?
en tiendas, lo churquean, compran edificios.
They invest in
ya,
stores, they
claro, y
the loan sharks.
lo invierten, lo que hacen es el lavado de activos.
invest it into money laundering.
Entonces,
O
eso
sea, ya
es
no
lo-
extorsionan, sino que ahora hacen como que negocios.
no, ese dinero que usaban de la extorsión, que hoy se lo ha combatido, ya no lo tienen ahorita, porque ya no pueden extorsionar más de las cárceles, ya. Entonces ahora quedan al extorsionador común, al que está afuera nomás, pero ese no tiene el mismo poder que el que tenía el que estaba en la cárcel.
The person who is an extortionist that's outside of jail doesn't have the same power as the one who's in jail. It's an interesting concept because you would think being in jail you'd lose power, but it seems like being in jail here, ganas poder, you gain power.
Claro, yo soy fuerte, tengo ya poder y ahí van creciendo, se van haciendo otros grupos ya armados para vivir a base de ese tipo de situaciones que se van dando.
The previous jail here sounds kind of like a safe house.
Esta semana una misma hija extorsionando a la madre con otros compañeros, otros chicos menores de edad y una tía que se prestó para extorsionar a la misma madre de la chica.
Apparently there was a girl here who was extortioning her own mother with the help of friends apparently.
¿Cuánto tenía ella? 16. ¿Cuánto tenían los chicos? 15 años. ¿Cuánto tenía la tía? 20 y pico de años.
She was 16, her friends were like 15, and the aunt was like 20 something.
Entonces, todo el mundo quiere dinero.
Everyone wants money.
Antes decía, el fin justifica, un refrán que se decía,
Sí.
el fin justifica los medios. Hoy en día no hay que promulgar ese refrán. Y ya el fin ya no justifica los medios. Así es simple.
That was the typical phrase, the ends justify the means, but we can't keep allowing that to be the case. We have to put an end to that, and it's true. There's a lot of things that need to change structurally.
Es decir, porque se le perdió el miedo a la autoridad, se le perdió el miedo a los padres, se le perdió el miedo a todo lo que genere respeto. Antes había eso, hoy en día ya no existe eso. Todo el mundo quiere y tiene la razón, quiere tenerla.
Yeah, that's actually a point that I really heavily agree with. A lot of fear has been lost to parents, to authorities, to people who are you're supposed to at least respect them. But now that respect is like gone. Everyone wants to be right. That is the online environment right now in general, where everyone wants to be right. And even if objectively they know that people know that they're wrong, they know that they're wrong, they will fight to try to find a way to be right. And it's okay to want to have a voice online, but like there are things that I don't even know how they can argue. We'll talk about some of those things because it has to do with these PDF files that we'll talk about, but yeah.
Yo tengo un hijo de 31, va a cumplir 31 años, lo aconsejo y él dice que ya lo sabe, pero...
He has a son, my brother, who is like, already an older guy who feels like who says that he already knows everything because of his age.
Cuando tenga 60 lo vas a saber todo.
He's like, when you're 60, you'll know everything.
Ni aún así.
And even then, that's not the case. I think something that I keep telling my students, and people in general, because I use this example when we're teaching English.
Ya lo sé.
No. It's like I teach, I tell them, I am not a student. Like when I'm teaching the verb to be in negative, I'm like, I am not a student. But then I'm like, that's not true because we're all students of life. We're all constantly learning. So in theory, I am a student. I make that joke with some of my students when I teach them the verb to be, but it's true because we're constantly learning. Like you're never gonna know everything, but you can strive to know as much as possible. And the moment that you stop trying to learn more things is kind of the moment where I guess you could say life ends. Not life, but you kind of like stop growing as a person. So it's always good to absorb information, to try to learn more things, to investigate, to not think that you know everything. Because the people who think they know everything know nothing. They don't know everything. They just know what they think they know is everything. And the online sphere right now is everyone thinking, I know everything. Yes, because you can chat GPT or Google something like that, you'll know things, you'll be able to investigate things, but you won't know everything. You're always learning. And I do agree with that. So looking at some of the comments, did I see here? Hold up, my mouse turned off. Okay. He will take lots. Thanks, Michelle. I'm missed that he is president. Not missed, pissed that he is president. Moonrise, it is a touchy subject. I'm so sorry. I understand, as do my fellow Canadians, and as such, we know the playbook all too well, sadly. Welcome, Ace's dad. Love your perspective. It means different things to everyone, no matter your age, race, or religion. This is a very complicated issue. Would not be too hopeful, though. This will help. This help will not come free, as ulterior motives may not be apparent when a country is vulnerable. Be safe and stand strong. We'll continue listening, but I'm on the chairlift. It's a ski day. I hope you're enjoying your ski day. On the slopes here, connecting is difficult going downhill. Don't worry about it. Focus on your skiing. Don't let yourself get hurt over there. All those are good points on why everyone should work together, so maybe we can have a bright future. Scott Bresson said it would take 10 years before giving refunds goes through the courts. He controls the cash flow. Yeah, it's the situation that I mentioned about those refunds. Like, I just want everyone to keep it in mind and to think about how the companies react in regards to the refunds, because I don't feel like it would be fair for the companies to have overcharged people now, get the money back that they supposedly had spent on those taxes, and then not do something kind for the consumer who, even with the taxes, decided, I'm going to purchase your product. That's what I'm trying to say with that situation. Like, try to be realistic about it. Like, don't expect them to give you the whole refund back, but if they don't at least say, hey, here's a 20% discount on your next purchase, or maybe 20% is too much, 15, 10, I don't know, whatever you want, you consider to be a fair percentage. Like, if they don't at least say that, hey, we know that we are getting this money back, so because you guys stuck with us, if you were part of our email list, or if you have a receipt from that time, or something that, you know, is not over exaggerated, like, if they at least try to do something, I feel like that's the fair part. But going back into what we were saying, yeah, there is a lot of things that we, at least at this moment, we won't know. But there's a hope. And I think we're allowed to hope. Not have expectations, because I prefer to always tell everyone, like, don't expect anything, because it's easier that way on yourself, because you hurt yourself with expectations, to be honest. But at least have the hope that maybe from here to next year, we'll see a decline in crimes, and not because we said, hey, cartels, here's money, you can do whatever you want. No, but because we stood against them, and now they're afraid of doing something in the country. Because I feel like that's what we want, and if anything, that's what I want to believe, that the comment that Trump says over here, because we were talking about this with Dad earlier, like, him saying that we'll use the missiles doesn't mean he's going to literally use the missiles. Like, he might. The U.S. government might. We've already seen it. It's happening in Iran. It's happening with this war that's happening outside of the country.
Ya en el Caribe ya han usado misiles porque han destruido narcolanchas.
It's happening in other parts of the world.
No, aquí en el Caribe. O sea,
No, but like not here in Ecuador.
No, en Venezuela, en el Caribe. En Mar
Por
Caribe.
eso. Pero la cosa es, o sea, aquí en Ecuador no.
No.
Like, it's not happening here. I'm not going to say it's not going to happen, because it's happening in close to us and in other parts of the world. But keep in mind that if this is more of a threat than it is an actual promise. And we can all say that once it's been threatened, it's basically been promised. But at least for now, hopefully this is like sending a signal to the cartels that it's not just the president saying, hey, we're fighting against you. It's the president and a whole coalition called the Shield of Americas that is targeting these cartels. there are people who aren't happy about it. Of course, Colombia, who's not a part of it, is not happy about it. But let's hope that this leads to something positive in Latin America. So, if anyone has any questions in regards to this, in regards to what's been happening, please leave a comment. Let us know what your thoughts are on this situation. Like I said, I'm hopeful. If we're going into what my thoughts, a little bit of my thoughts on the situation with the U.S. government, I'm honestly, I'm surprised. Well, I'm not. I saw a meme yesterday, I think it was, that the meme literally says it's a guy watching like TV and basically saying all of this. Basically, it was showing like missiles striking and everything. All of this because some people didn't want to admit that they were killing or doing terrible things to children. And honestly, I think in part the reaction from the US government to do some of these things might actually be because they want to distract from certain problems. So what government doesn't want to distract from the bad things that they're doing with something else that is perceived to be a good thing? I do believe that there is ulterior motives, like we said. Maybe the government, maybe the U.S. government wants some kind of resource from us. We're very good in shrimp. We have banana. We have, of course, an excellent country for people to live in. So it could also be a way of making it safer for people who are coming to live here. I don't think that's actually the case, but it could be. Let's look at it optimistically, and that could be a reason why this is happening. But realistically, I feel like there is a distracting part from the states to do these things, especially considering that the person who is in charge, I don't even know if that's the person who's in charge. It's, let's see here. Kristi Noem is the one who's going to be here. She is the special envoy. Okay, maybe she's not in charge, but she's the special envoy. But this is the same person who was basically borderline torturing Latin Americans in the United States with the whole situation of ICE, which I'm not happy about at all.
Ella fue removida del ICE, ahora está acá.
Ahora está acá. So it's the same person who was basically hurting Latin Americans is now coming to be part of a coalition that is set to protect Latin
Pero eso
America.
tiene una explicación. Porque ella ya estuvo acá, integrada.
Oh, yeah.
Ella ya estuvo visitando ya a Noboa, estuvo en Argentina con Milei, estuvo en El Salvador, entonces ya ella tiene una relación directa.
So she does already have a relationship with these Latin American leaders.
Ese cambio fue más cambio político para este tipo de situación que por la supuestamente problema de ICE que tuvo allá. Para mí, mi conclusión es esa.
I mean, I understand what he's trying to say, that there's more political reasons for sending her over here. She does have relationships, like she has established relations with the presidents of certain countries. Not relationships, relations, although relationship is a relation, with Latin American leaders. So it's easier to have a face on the person to speak with. But I do also feel that, of course, like I was mentioning now, it just doesn't, like, of course she was kicked out of ICE. There's that reasoning as well. Because there's a lot of backlash on that. So in that political side, I think that is a situation as well. But her being over here doesn't sit well with me, like I said, because it just feels weird to have the person who has been so adamantly defending the actions of people who have been hurting Latin Americans to be over here like, don't worry, we're here to help Latin America. I mean, of course, I get the whole purpose of ICE and deportations because there's people there who aren't there with permission, I guess you could say. But the way that they went about it just doesn't feel correct. Even people who are still in ICE facilities, I hear that they're being treated not ideally. So I don't really like that. Michelle, Trump just legally recognized the Venezuela government. So what has changed for Venezuela? I think the fact that the person who was in charge there is no longer in charge there. And they do seem to keep having some kind of power over Venezuela. So maybe that's why they're recognizing them.
Mientras ella haga lo que le dice Trump, ella se va a mantener ahí.
No, pero aquí están hablando de la situación de Venezuela.
Yo por eso digo de eso.
Ah,
Que
la
mientras-
persona quien está ahorita en
No,
poder.
Daisy, ella, mientras ella haga lo que le está diciendo Tonso, eliminó ya todos los cubanos que estaban ahí en el gobierno, ya los mandó.
So yeah, basically as long as the person who's in charge right now keeps listening to Trump, they're gonna be, of course, they're gonna recognize
ya
them.
dio la apertura para la explotación petrolera a compañías americanas, ya la dio. Entonces, entonces ya está ganado el 50%. El otro 50% son los militares que todavía están en medio tratando de conservar el madurismo, pues, ¿no?
Of course. If by crusty you mean the dog shooter, then yes, I agree. That person should definitely be fired. Moonrise agrees. She was fired and given this other role. I feel like so many things right now are happening that if it were any other part of the world or if it were any other person, like things would not be the same. But here we are. Like, I kind of feel like a lot of people aren't taking repercussions against the states, but based on a lot of things that have been happening there, because there's no one who can fight the states right now. So, but at least, you know, it's not as bad as it could be. Let's just put it at that. It could be much worse. I'm actually worried about Ecuador one day becoming a stepping stone for the states to be able to do military actions against other countries. Oh my God, yes, Kristi Noem is in charge. Oh my God, that's deeply concerning. Based on everything I've read as well, it's just, okay, according to that, and well, that makes sense. Since she does have some kind of communication with these leaders, it's a lot easier to send her to talk to them than it would be to send someone else. I mean, you could send me, I'll talk to them. But I wouldn't have the experience and knowledge to be able to do that.
Ya está relacionada con la política exterior.
She's already very well versed with exterior politics. But yeah, those are some of my thoughts on the situation with the current administration. A lot of things that I feel like are not being done correctly, and a lot of things that I feel like are happening only because it's working as a smokescreen for other things. You guys know what I'm talking about. So yeah, if you have any thoughts or comments, please let us know. If not, I think that's about all we have to talk about today. I do want to give a shout out to the wonderful women who are here on this stream and who exist in this world. To all the women in your life, happy Women's Day. I hope you get the respect and are treated the way that you deserve. Of course, I think that is interpretation related. I forgot how that expression goes, but you take that as you will, because some people, I know that you can say, but there's been terrible women in life. Then, of course, if I tell them, be treated and respected as you deserve, you can take that as you will. If you've been a good person in life, of course, you know that when I tell you you deserve respect, it's because you've done well in life to deserve that respect. I feel like everyone deserves respect, but it's just to the point where there are people who do terrible things to others. I feel like there's a line to be drawn where you feel like, hey, does this person really deserve respect? And I get that. So that's why I wish you I wish you what you feel you deserve. Michelle, my grandmother said not to say anything unless I had something nice to say. I'll need to be silent on this Cruella de Vil. Yeah, I agree with that. Women's Day should be a human day. Thank you. Yeah, I feel like there's a lot of things when it comes to Women's Day that are over exaggerated. But that's more from the perspective of people who have gone through terrible things with women, typically men. That's why I get the thought process that comes from some people who are like, but why should I respect women if they just want my money, if they just want my things, if they don't treat me the same? Everyone's perspective is going to be molded based on what you've lived through in life. And I feel like, at least from what I've seen in women, like I can say that women do not deserve the things that everyone says. Even the women that men complain about, no one deserves to be treated poorly. Everyone deserves to have respect and dignity and be treated as a person. So it's just a matter of how you've perceived life, and I understand why that might alter your perspective on how women should be treated, but it's not correct. All women should be treated well. Just there's obviously the case to be given for the women who deserve more than others. But at least common decency and respect, I think we've all earned that. I think all women have earned that. I don't want to put myself in the position of women, because how am I going to understand a woman, because I'm not a woman? It's truth. Nosotros no podemos poder entender la posición de mujer porque no somos mujeres. It's a different life for us than it is for women. So
Cada quien tiene su visión.
everyone has their vision.
Estoy mirando allá la pantalla y ellos están mirando la exposición. Entonces,
Basically, we're looking at you and you guys are looking at us.
Claro, es diferente.
Mhm.
Por eso cada ser es independiente de pensamiento, de criterio y pensamiento.
You're free to have your criteria, you're free to have your thoughts. So yeah, if there's nothing else, I appreciate everyone who was here today. I hope that this gave you an idea. But to give you the final thoughts of travel and living here, right now everything is basically the same. Prácticamente todo lo mismo.
Sí.
So nothing has really changed in life. It's still difficult.
No, o sea, en 15 días, del 15 para arriba aquí va a cambiar solamente dependiendo de las provincias que se llegue, pues no.
Of course.
Que van a solamente haber movimiento hasta las 11 de la noche. De ahí para allá viene el toque de queda.
Yeah. So after the 15th, things might change in some way, shape, or form because of the curfews, because of everything that's going to be happening over here in regards to that. But for now, things are basically the same. And if things do change, they're going to be in the areas that are going through the curfews. So if you plan on traveling to Ecuador, go to Cuenca. Like, Cuenca is right now not even touched by the curfew. Like Luis of Ecuador, he told me earlier, there's no curfew over there. So if you go to Cuenca, everything is going to be fine. There's other parts of the country which...
La seguridad siempre va a ser personal también.
And of course, there's also a personal aspect when it comes to security, to safety.
Yo no voy a irme a un lugar que por estadística dicen que está malo, no me voy a ir a meter ahí.
Statistically, if you know there's a place that's dangerous, you're not going to go there. And that makes sense. So just go to the places that you know are safe, and everything is going to be basically the same Ecuador as you can imagine, like before the curfews. So don't let the curfew stop you from coming. Just don't go to the places where there's a clear curfew, unless you have tons of precautions. But remember, curfew also means you can't stay out late, travel is going to be tougher, so don't go to those areas. Just come to areas that are like safer. Cuenca, most of all, I think is the best example. You can come to Puerto Viejo, of course, as long as you're safe, as long as you know you do your investigation work. But yeah, that's all we have to say right now. So thank you for joining us here today. Good day, y'all. Good day to you, to Moon River. Gracias por estar aquí. Thank you for being here. Deborah, expectations are premeditated resentment. Agreed. Hope springs eternal. Deborah, Michelle, everyone else who took the time to be here. Scala, who was interacting earlier. Magnus, who was here earlier. Bonnet, Lifestyles. Thank you everyone for joining us. I've got a video underway, by the way. I have gotten some information. We're going to be recording, so stay tuned for that. Take care, and as always, ace out.
Bye.
Bye everyone. Take it easy. Yeah, ending stream, Scala. Was making food. Don't worry about it, but thank you for joining. Take care, and we'll talk soon.
Ya, ¿no?
Yeah.